Thank you very much. I am last this morning, so I hope that all of you hold your appetite for a while. I'm going to tell you about Ecopetrol strategy, and you will see that our business plan is going to be developed through a lot of partnerships. So this is the agenda that I should cover. A new era for oil and gas in Colombia and for Ecopetrol. I will also show you about delivering our goals. This is just a quick overview on how we are doing things in the last years. Then we will cover a strategic plan to 2020, and finally, financial highlights and some remarks. Let me start by telling you what the country is like and what major changes have been happening in the last 5 to 7 years. Right now, Colombia is reaching 1 million barrels per day production. Our reserves are above 3.5 billion barrels of oil equivalent. These two figures, 50% increase in production in the last years and 25% increase in reserves. And finally, one of the most important issues that we are now working on is to increase the relation between production and reserves. We have moved it from 7.6 to 8.1, just a little bit, but our business plan is to take it further beyond that. And there are some indicators that show how the country has evolved in the last years. There is much more contracts being signed. There is also a FID increase for the oil and gas sector. And here you will see that nowadays we are making more exploration wells. We are above 100 wells, exploratory wells per year, and our exploratory success is above 50%. That is also that the oil and products being exported in Colombia is increasing a lot. The country is now a net exporter of oil and refined products. And the company. We used to be, just 4 years ago, a wholly oil state-owned company. Right now we have a 10.1% of our shares floating in 4 exchanges. We are listed in the Colombian Exchange, New York Exchange, the Lima Exchange, and also in Toronto Exchange. There are corporate governance practices being implemented and reinforced each day in the company. There is a Capex. We have moved from 1.7 billion per year just 3 years ago to a 18 billion Capex expenditure in the last 3 years, and our business plan amounts for 80 billion Capex through 2020. Production, in 2007, we were about 400,000 barrels per day, and today we are just above 700,000 barrels per day. Our aim is to get to 1 million barrel production as a company by 2015 and 1.3 million by 2020. And our market capitalization, when we first did the IPO, the market was $27 billion, and today is $86 billion, just 3-4 years after that. And our goals. This is the Capex in the last years. We have increased 9 times the company's Capex in the last years. 60% of that increase has gone to E&P activities. And, well, I just told you, $18 billion Capex since 2008. And we are producing a return on capital employed above 70%. We have a new business model for the whole value chain. We have a model of companies. We are now 16 operating companies, and we have companies for exploration and production. There are 6 companies. We operate through 4 of them overseas, and 3 of them in Colombia. There is also a group of companies for refinery and petrochemicals. There is a group of companies for transport and logistics, and also 2 companies for biofuels. Our growth is that in the last years, we have increased our production by 53%. That makes more or less over 20-25% in the last 2 years of production increase. Our exploration areas has increased very importantly. In 2002, we hold 9 million hectares, and now we have 27. And the exploration activity is also increasing through exploratory wells. Pipelines, we are undergoing major projects for expanding our transport system, especially crude oil. And here you see that we have increased our sales of transported volumes from 700,000 barrels per day to just above 1 million barrels per day being transported. Diesel quality is also changing in the country. Actually, the whole matrix of products, refined products, is changing quite a bit on specs. We are reducing sulfur, and here in petrochemicals, this is a new business line that we are also growing in the company. Let me tell you about our strategy. There is a $80 billion plan for the next 10 years through 2020. That plan is 55% and for production, 25% for exploration, and refining, transport, and petrochemicals. They share about 7% of that business plan. That business plan will take us to a production of 1.3 million barrels per day, and we will need to add new reserves, about 6 billion barrels of oil equivalent between 2008 and 2020. That is, if we accomplish those goals, production, reserves, the relation ratio between production and reserves will take us to a position between the 30 most largest companies in the world, oil and gas companies. What is important about that figure, 80 billion expenditure, is that that's the portion that is scheduled for Ecopetrol. But most of that expenditure is done through contracts with partners. So there is more Capex involved in our business plan than what is shown there. We wouldn't be able to grow at this rate if the company wouldn't take care of consolidating the business model. So that's why we are working very hard on making our operations responsible. We are aiming to lower the frequency accidents to 0.4 accidents per million labor hours. That would make us among the best in the industry. Services, we are now implementing a shared service center just to improve and to lower costs for not just for the company, but for the group. Projects, most of this expenditure is done through projects, so we are becoming a leader within the industry on managing those projects, and our aim is to be in the first quartile of IPA by 2015. On supply management, we have a score or a KPI just to make sure that all the services are provided and the supplies are provided between the best of the industry, and we are benchmarking that with a score, and we want to be in the superior category by 2020. And on the financial management, we always aim that our portfolio is above 17% of return on capital employed. So, production will rise in the company just at an annual rate of just below 10% from here to 2020. Most of that production is to come from existing fields where we plan to increase the recovery factor from levels between 22, 25 to 30 to 35, and also the reserves that are going to be needed, 55% should come from exploration and 36% will come from existing fields. Just a quick overview on the upstream strategy. Exploration. We have divided our portfolio into three category lines or strategic lines. The first one, we call it leverage. The second one is growth, and the third is sustainability. That's how our portfolio is classified in the company. Leverage are the new discoveries to expand or to produce a short-term revenues and to make sure that we can finance through that the growth the company needs, which should come from high potential areas. And sustainability, those are the reserves for longer term. So here in Colombia, as international, all our plays and blocks and areas are divided into those three categories. There is early production being added through that strategy, improving reserves, and in Peru, Marañón. Growth, we have the Caribbean offshore and heavy crude oils, the foothills in Colombia, Gulf of Mexico, U.S. Gulf of Mexico, the museum, and Brazil post-sal and pre-sal. Sustainability is more, like I said, the longer term, which should come from geological frontier and non-conventionals and some other areas that we are right now working on. The country, as you see here, we hold quite a few, or a large portfolio of areas in the Caribbean offshore, which is where we expect the growth to come, as well as here in the eastern plains for heavy oil. Why is Ecopetrol exploring abroad? We have a strategy, and our strategy is we have a commitment to produce value through growth, and we see that we can grow nationally and internationally. Our strategy aims for both, to grow nationally and internationally, to get or to provide a diversified portfolio, E&P portfolio, and to diversify risks together with getting knowledge and best practices by operating with high standards with other partners. That's why we have assets in Colombia, because it's an attractive country. It's the country we know. It's the country where we have grown. But there is medium potential in Colombia. And internationally, we are now working on Peru, the U.S. Gulf of Mexico, and Brazil. There is higher potential, and there is attractive frameworks in those countries that would support our strategy to grow and generate value. So this is the map for the three countries we are on, and we're increasing our production by 22% for the fourth year, growing at those rates. That production is gonna get us from 615 to 700,000 barrels, 750,000 barrels per day. And that increase should come mainly from the main 5 oil fields in Colombia. And there is a portion here that is for an increase of 35,000 barrels per day coming from our subsidiaries abroad, together with subsidiaries in Colombia. there is also a portfolio on gas. We have 4 main projects right now to increase capacity by 50 million cubic feet per day. And there is one in the Atlantic coast, and the other ones are in the Cusiana and Cupiagua fields, together with Gibraltar and Sardinata fields. In downstream, there is also a very strong strategy. We are improving and we are reshaping our downstream just to make sure that we can add value. For instance, in refinery, increasing production of clean and valuable products by taking advantage of synergies and ensuring profitability in the downstream. We have 4 focuses, strategic focuses there. One is to produce operational excellence on our refineries, being sure that we are market focused or market orientated, and refining margin improvements, make sure that on difficult times the refinery can perform quite well on delivering value and growing profitably. By doing so, we expect also to become one of the Latin America's leaders on refinery operation. And as I just mentioned, there is a big interest for the company to produce clean products. We have undergone some projects to withdraw the sulfur from the diesel and gasoline. Right now, there are some parts of the country and the market that where we go beyond the regulation on sulfur content. And there are 2 main projects in the company to upgrade our refineries. For Cartagena Refinery, it's a refinery on the Caribbean coast. We have a project to increase capacity from 80,000 barrels per day to 165,000 barrels per day. That project is for $3.7 billion Capex and is due on 2013. Our inner refinery, which is Barrancabermeja, that refinery is oriented to local market. There is also a major project of $3.4 billion. We are not increasing capacity, but we are making the refinery more highly conversion. We are moving to a conversion of 95% in the refinery, and that project is expected to finish by 2016. Transport. Colombia is facing a big challenge of moving crude oil. There is a huge amount of crude oil compared to maybe 2 years ago that it needs to be moved in the company, in the country. So right now we are expanding our capacity for transport. There is a major issue right now to be sure that we can allocate the crude oils not just in our refinery system but in the international market. Right now there are 8 projects to expand capacity by 450,000 barrels per day. There is a Capex of $1.7 billion there. But in the next 4 years, we need to expand a little bit more the capacity. So we need to build 1,300 kilometers of new pipelines just to make sure that we can allocate the crude oil in the markets. It is expected that the country, Colombia, by 2020, get a production of 2 million barrels per day. Natural gas. We are developing new market opportunities to monetize the reserve that we have. We are also encouraging the production and the exploration of new gas opportunities. And we are also developing the biofuels and alternative fuels market in Colombia. And right now we are trying to consolidate a basket of products, not just on conventional oil, but also non-conventional oil and alternative sources of energies. Right now we are producing biofuels, and our goal is to get to a 450,000 tons per year by 2020. One of the major issues that we are working on is to move or incorporate initiatives in the company to lower cost. And we are performing quite well in this. In the last 2 years, those initiatives have led the company in indicators like this: lifting, refining, and transport costs going down, and we expect them to continue improving, lowering the costs, and making sure that we can have a model that is sustainable in the long term as far as costs are concerned. Some financial highlights. All this strategy has led Ecopetrol to become a net exporter of crude oil and refined products. We are increasing a lot of our export and our sales. And maybe what is more that I would like to point out here in this slide is that today, because we have more products and more oil to export, we have been looking for new markets. So right now, for instance, you can see here that one of our destinations for our crude oil is the Far East. We have exports to India and China. So this figure, maybe a couple of years or 3 years ago, was quite different. Of course, US is still the main market for our products, but we are trying to diversify the market opportunities to other destinations. This is also, the company has solid financial results, not just because price is being high in the last years, but also because we are improving our operations, we are lowering our costs, we are increasing the volumes. So in the whole, not just for prices, the company is performing quite well as finances are concerned. How do we expect to finance our plan? $80 billion, as I said at the beginning, is the portion that is invested directly by Ecopetrol. There is some more expenditure that should come from partnerships, but our portion is to be financed 65% net cash flow that the company will generate, and 25% debt, and 10% equity. The government has been authorized to issue maybe an equity later to finance our business plan. Okay, just to finish, what can I recall of what we just said? First, that we have a proven track record of delivering on our goals. So we are making sure that everyone within the company knows what needs to be done and get it done. Sound asset base for growth and value creation. Best practices in social responsibility and social policies for our stakeholders. Efficient management and control systems already implemented and getting reinforced within the company. And we have built credibility among investors. Okay, thank you very much.